Hello everyone. It is another bed video, but today it is morning instead of night, so that's a good change, I guess. I just remembered that I had this old roommate today while I was making breakfast, and I started thinking about him because it's just, I don't know, like we were friends for a really long time, and then the one thing that you should never do is like start living with your friends, because then you don't be, or you're just not friends anymore, because living together you start like spending a lot of time together, and then you like learn things about each other, and it's just so aggravating. And honestly, by the time that like I moved out into this house, I didn't want to be his friend anymore. I never wanted to speak to him anymore. And like I'm like civil, but I'm just it's like whenever like I talk to somebody, I just think about like what aggravated me when I lived with them. And that's kind of why like I have learned very early on that you should not be roommates with your friends, like ever. So this roommate in particular, he had this thing called Meniere's disease. And what that is it affects the liquid in your ears that control balance, from what I understand. And so it was really easily manageable. All he had to do was not eat a lot of salt, and he was fine. And of course, as with anybody with any issue that they have, nobody really does what they're supposed to. And honestly, salt is kind of unavoidable in processed foods. So he would have salt sometimes, and then sometimes it would get worse, and sometimes he was fine. But one thing I started noticing when we were living together is that he would use my stuff and he would break it a lot. And then he would blame it on his Meniere's, which at first I was like, oh, okay, I totally understand. But then as time went on, because I lived with him for like 2 years, I was kind of like, is this Meniere's, or is he just breaking all of my things? And, obviously you can ask him, because he'd be like, it's the Meniere's. And I'd be like, okay, fine. And I couldn't say anything back because you can't really, you know, like when someone has like a disease or a sickness or some issue that they have with themselves, you can't be like, no, it's not. So basically, what he would do is he would like use my things, like my dishes and stuff, like anything breakable, and he would use them, which I was fine with. This is plastic, but I'm just gonna demonstrate with this. I don't care if you use my dishes. I don't care if you use my glasses. I don't care if you use anything of mine, as long as you treat it with respect, and then you clean it and put it back when you're done. So my room, so the way our apartment was, it was like this, and then it was like my room and his room, and then it was like the kitchen and the living room, and then the bathroom, and then the front door. So my room was here with the kitchen next to it, and then his room was next to mine with the living room. So in order for him to get to the kitchen, he would have to go over the living room into the kitchen. So when he was in the kitchen, I could hear it because I was literally next to the kitchen. Like my door opened into the kitchen, and I would always just hear all this like crashing and him being like, "Oops." And what he would do is like he would use my things, he would clean it, and then when he would put it down, rather than like putting it like on a surface and then letting go of the item, he would just go like this and then just drop it, and then it would hit the counter and it would break. And he would be like, "Oh, it's the Meniere's, like it messes up my depth perception." And the first couple of things he broke, I let it go. I was like, I understand you have Meniere's. I've known you for a really long time. I see what it does to you. After a couple of things that he's broken, I was just like, wait a minute. I don't understand. Like when you put something down, right? When you put like a cup on the table, you like feel that the cup has like touched the table before you let it go. Okay? You're just putting it like in the air and then just dropping it, and like I don't want to drop it because I'm going to drop it on my bed, but you're just going like this and you're literally just dropping it and then letting it hit the counter or whatever surface you're putting it down on. Like what makes you think that when it's up here and the bottom's not resting on a surface, that it's on something. Like, I don't think that that's an excuse. I think that you're just destroying my things to destroy my things at this point, because like any sane person, if my eyes were closed and I'm freaking putting this down somewhere, like I would put it down and I would like feel that it's like touching something, like, oh, it's touching something, oh, it's touching something. Now I can let it go because I know it's sitting on a surface. And he would be like, well, because I have Meniere's, I'm like looking at the counter. And so I think it's the counter and it's not the counter. And I'm just like, okay, but all you really have to do is, if you think you have the cup on the counter, is to go like this. And if it doesn't hit anything, it's not on the counter and it's still in the air. And it's just like, how off does your depth perception have to be to break all of my dishes, to break all of my mugs? Like, I didn't even own like any fancy like glass. Like, these were like coffee mugs, and coffee mugs can take a lot before they break. I could understand if I like owned champagne flutes and he was breaking the champagne flute because he dropped it a little bit or put it down too hard, because that's perfectly valid. Like, champagne flutes are made out of like really, really thin crystal or thin lead glass. But these were like legitimate coffee mugs that he was just breaking. It's like, how far away from the table does the mug have to be in order for you to drop it and it shatter? Like, I don't understand. And it's just like, you break all my things and then you break all my favorite things, and now I have no dishware, and you're not willing to buy me more dishware because you have no money. Like, I don't understand. You use someone's things, you break them, you go, I'm so sorry for breaking your things, let me replace them. Like, that's what any person would do, any decent person would do, and I think. And he'd just be like, oh, I can't pay you back for all of your dishes and all of your mugs that I've broken because I don't have money. And it's just like, okay, like, what do you want me to say about that? I have no dishes. And then when I go and buy more dishes, you're going to fucking use them and break them. And then I'm not going to have dishes again. And you're not going to replace those. So I have to keep going out and buying more dishes. And then he was like, well, why don't you use plastic? And I'm like, because I don't want to use plastic dishes. I want to use freaking like ceramic or porcelain or glass dishes like a normal person, and I don't want to use like children's like dishware. Like, I'm not a kid, I'm an adult, and like, while my dishes aren't nice by any means, they're microwave safe. And that's important to me. And eventually I ended up moving out into this house that I live in now, and I really haven't spoken to him since. He's come to visit a few times when I just moved in, but then like I had like a life crisis, and then I just kind of like cut everyone off in life, and then after like a while I like re-added everyone in on Facebook, and like, whatever, got a new phone, whatever. And he was not one of the people that I reached out to. And I should also mention, he borrowed like a ton of my money and he never paid it back. I haven't seen a cent. And it's been so many years. And I don't think that he's ever going to. And I don't think at this point he's going to think he needs to, because I really haven't spoken to him. Even though he has reached out and asked me for a couple of favors, I'm kind of just like, because I was going through things in life as well, and I was just like, you're not the priority right now. I gotta take care of myself, and it's like, I don't feel like going out of my way to do you these favors when you've broken all of my things. You gave me a really bad living experience when I was there. You liked me, and that was really weird. And you freaking haven't paid me back for all the money that I loaned you. And that's just like shitty. And I don't know. People are freaking weird and like crappy, and I just don't like them, which is why I don't have friends. But it just like pisses me off. I was like watering my plants today and then it just like came into my mind and so I kept thinking about it and it just like made me more and more angry. So I had to like talk about it. And I just like it's so annoying and God, it was just like 2 years of my life. Like I had a place to live, but it's just like I really could have not, you know, like it's one of those things where you're just like, could I have lived without that? Yes, 100%. And like, sure, I'm glad it was like my first apartment and I got out of my parents' house, but at the same time, I'm just like, terrible. So, oh, and one of my roommates in this house broke one of my things as well, but I do think that was an accident. But he also freaking left broken glass in the dish rack. Like, hello, if you broke it, I understand, but like, don't leave the broken glass in the dish rack like you didn't break something, and then I have to come home and like pick out all the broken glass. Like, it's just, why are people so dumb? Okay, so this video is past 10 minutes, so I have to go. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my rant, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.